Hey, welcome back to the Extra Medium channel. On this episode, I'm going to be freshening up the forks on my Daytona 955. I'll be removing the forks, making a cap tool, disassembling the fork legs, replacing seals and bushings, reassembling the fork legs, reinstalling the forks, and I've got a tip for aligning the forks when you get them in, and then taking it to a track day to test it out. Now the first thing I want to do is get the bike up on a stand and remove the front wheel. Now I'll stop right there and not remove anything else until I loosen up these caps on the forks. I don't have a vise that holds them securely, so I'm going to have to use the triple clamps as the vise. This isn't that tough to do as long as you have a socket that's the proper size for your caps. Now I have a socket, but it's not quite deep enough. I tried to use this crescent, but it's just going to mar up the surface. I do not think this is a good idea, so I'm going to abort this mission, and I'm going to take the socket that I have and make a tool that will fit. Okay, this actually is a picture of my welds for once. Now with my tool, it now fits over top. And I can loosen this up finally. God, what's America? That was this. On the bottom. This one. Now it's just a bunch of Allens that hold the forks in place, so I'll loosen all these up. Everything loosened up. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and finish removing this top cap. This doesn't actually have any air pressure in it, but the air may have changed. So as you can see, I have a ratchet strap up and around the bottom so that it slides smoothly. And the hooks put into the eyes of this sleeve. So I'll just ratchet it a little bit, expose the nuts in there, put a stopper in so that I can So right here you can see the top cap is threaded onto this, and right under it is the lock nut. There's a lock nut, and this part's threaded as well. The top part has some flat surfaces that you can get a wrench on. Now these are forks from a 2005 Speed Triple, a 1050. So if you're working on the same forks, the top cap has a 17 mil space for the wrench, and the locking nut is a 14 mil. So with that loosened up, I can simply unscrew the cap while holding the retaining nut right in place. And that's the compression rod. So you'll notice it got a little bit of sideways, and the rod is holding it's holding it in there. The spring still has tension, so I need to wiggle it around and relieve the tension in a controlled manner. However, on this leg, it was not as controlled. The other one was better, but watch. I'm gonna pull up this. That was awesome. So anyway, don't do that. this point, you can pull the spring out and drain the rest of the oil. Pretty easy. Next step, just peeling off this dust cap, and that will expose what's inside here. And try to get a good shot of it. It's there's a little retaining ring inside there, an internal ring. There it is, pointing right at it, that silver part. So that needs to be removed, and after that, these will just pull apart. You have to kind of slam hammer them apart, but they'll pull apart as soon as that clip is unhooked. Just like that. There's the inside of the outer tube. And here's a picture of the seal and the bushings. So the seal's at the bottom, the bushings are at the top. This top bushing, you just stick a screwdriver in there and twist it, and it will expand it so it will slip out of that groove. You can see the groove in the fork tube there. Nothing here takes specialty tools. This is all pretty easy stuff with just basic hand tools. The other bushing slides right off because it's a larger diameter. There's a washer in there, and this bottom part is the seal. This is the part that leaks oil that I hate. And I'm sure you hate it too, but replacing it will make everything better, trust me. So as I pull the old ones out, I set them right next to the new ones. So all the new seals and bushings are lined up right next to each other. That way I can visually inspect and see that they are actually the same thing and I didn't order the wrong parts. Once I verified that, the reusable parts, the washer and the clip, just move them over, keep them all in order and the way that they'll be facing up, and I can use that as a guide to make sure I'm reinstalling it in the correct way. Now that I've got them on the shaft, everything from here is pretty straightforward. Let me show you an awesome trick. So if you don't have a seal driver, kind of like me, you can just wrap electrical tape around your fork tube. This will create a surface that will drive the seals into the fork tube. So seems ridiculous, but it's next to free. I guarantee you have some electrical tape sitting around. Watch this. One slam, done. That sucker's in there. Now all I do is pull the fork leg back out, unwind the electrical tape from it, and it's good to go. At that point I can slip my clip back in, and that will keep them from separating. You can add your fork oil right now. Moving the rod up and down helps remove any air from underneath the piston. Do that a few times and make sure no bubbles are coming out. This is kind of how your fork actually works in operation, so it's pretty cool to see the fluid moving through there. Now you can drop your spring back into the bottom. There's a spring and then there's that long tube spacer thing, the thing I had to compress down. So I did that. Here you can see I have it compressed again. That way the rod reaches all the way to the top. I can stick the nylon on the top of the tube. And then there's a metal washer as well. And then finally, all I have to do is grab the compression rod and the cap, slip it back down the middle, and start to thread this on. I'll need to reveal a little bit more of the threads so that I can see and get a hold of the lock nut. Now I'll lock these together. So that's all locked together. Now I can just finish tightening by hand the cap into the threads in the outer tube. Okay, so reinstalling the forks. Get them in there, get one of them snug and tight at the proper height, and keep the other one loose. So this one's tight, nice and tight, and this one is still loose. I can wiggle it around, move it up and down if I need to. Now the reason for that is I want to make sure that this axle slides in exactly into the threads. I don't want it up 1 millimeter. I don't want to have to compress the fork in any way when I'm putting a wheel on. So I'll do my best to make sure that this slides directly into the threads, and that there is no drag whatsoever, and it will go straight in. You can check that this is proper by just, once you have everything tightened down and straight, there should be no drag on this clamped fork. Shouldn't be up and down, shouldn't be back and forth. You should be able to just wiggle this by hand, just move it by your hand. It makes life so much easier when you're changing front tires. And there we have it. Forks are back on, wheel is back on. Michael is ready to help put the carbon fiber bodywork back on. It's time to go test it at the track. The forks worked well. I had to dial them in over the first couple of sessions, but I like them better than the stock Daytona forks, so I'm happy with the conversion, and I'm happy with no fork oil leaking all over my brakes and in my front wheel, so that's fantastic. Little shot of Reed going through turn 9 at Hallett. As always, thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you've watched this far. It really helps. See you next time.